You're listening to the Southern U Podcast, brought to you by Darton Archery on the Okayest Podcast Network, with your hosts Taylor McMurtry, Jeremy Ferguson, and Matt Brock. All right, guys, welcome back to episode number 8 of the Southern U Podcast. Joined as always, Jeremy Ferguson, Wildlife Consulting Services / Tutland / whatever else we can put next to his name.
I add stuff daily.
Yeah, exactly. And the living legend, A.L. Deer legend.
Okay, this has got to stop.
Matt Brock.
Never.
Never. And, yeah, my name's Taylor. I get to hang out with these guys because I got nothing else better to do, I guess. Except last episode they were forcing us to eat habanero-laced popcorn.
Which Matt is still enjoying at the moment.
Yeah, apparently.
Sounds like he's chewing on an apple over there.
Yeah, if you guys hear that, just know it's Matt.
Every time y'all call me the Alabama
Sissy.
deer hunt, whatever legend, I'm going to crunch another one.
Oh, good, guys. We're going to keep doing that. He's going to have diarrhea, something fierce later.
It ain't going to affect me one bit.
So, I hope you guys are doing well out there. I want to say thank you so much for the support you've shown us over the last few episodes. Things have been growing for us on all social platforms, and want to encourage you, if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Southern U, and you can also find us on YouTube. We release a lot more content there. There's some full-length hunt videos there too. Find us on YouTube. Just search Southern U, and you should be able to find us there pretty easily.
You should be able to find videos of Matt.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
none of the rest of us
Jeremy,
get to
where's your
hunt.
full-length hunting videos?
Yeah.
right.
When I get to go hunting, I'll let you know. Or when I actually get one on film.
Oh,
Yeah.
you got one on film, and we're going to air it.
Which one? The Kansas deer?
The mistake.
Oh.
The mistake. I love that deer is just
He's
known as the mistake.
You notice it's not here anywhere.
No, it's not.
That little skull mount is hanging in the cabin.
Little skull mount.
Yeah.
It's like-
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get too worked up. It was little.
It was
It didn't look little.
It was little.
Whatever, man.
probably because it didn't weigh but about 135, 140 pounds.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's
Hey, it happens.
All right, one more handful and I'm quitting.
the only guy I know that is addicted to habanero infused popcorn.
Yeah. He's got some other addictions that we won't talk about.
Not safe for work.
No.
No, they're fine.
All right, guys. So we're going to jump right into the topic of discussion. And I will say before we get there, stick around at the end of the podcast. We're going to make a big announcement for something that, like we said on the last episode, something you want to be involved in. And
I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too, man. I'm pretty dang fired up about it. You guys will be too, I imagine. So today we are talking about something that you've heard us mention several times before. We call it the 101 content, as Matt is trying to quench the thirst over there and put out the fire.
I got a
in his
hold of
mouth.
one that's rough, y'all.
You made fun of Taylor for sweating.
Yeah.
Your cheeks are getting red.
Well, they ought to be. Golly,
That's nice.
that did it.
So, anyways, but today is another one of the what we'll call 101 content or 101 episodes, and this is just after the shot. This is the
I'll quit crunching now.
Yeah.
maybe, and yeah, this is kind of after the shot 101.
We're going to let Matt handle this one because Taylor and I have never killed a deer. So
Yeah, I don't even know what one looks like.
And I've sure made my fair share of bad shots. So.
We live in Marshall County. We don't know what deer are. But yeah, basically, it just kind of the thought that we had for this one is like many new hunters or young hunters, doesn't really matter. But if you're kind of new to this thing and trying to be successful in the woods, and you actually get an opportunity at an animal that you're trying to harvest, and you squeeze that trigger or you let an arrow go, great. Now what? What do we do
what
next?
do you do?
immediately get down and go push the deer.
Right, man?
That's what a lot of people do.
Right, Matt? No, just so that's what we're going to talk about today. And what I want to do, kind of starting out here, I'll ask these two guys because they've got lots of experience in this kind of field too. But I want to break this down where we are talking about after the shot of a gun, after the shot with a bow, because they can be different. There's wildly different, both in nature and just kind of how animals react to those things when they are impacted, and
Hey,
those sort of things are a little different.
and crazy things happen.
They do.
I
Crazy
mean,
things can happen in the woods.
Bullets do
We
crazy
can-
things.
We can talk about some of that that's happened
Yep.
over the last week or so.
Arrows
Absolutely.
do crazy things. It's just stuff just happens.
Yep. For sure. So I guess starting out with very first question here is: I just shot a deer with a bow. Now what? What are we looking for? What's the sights and sounds? What are you looking for in terms of body language of the animal that you shot? Just those sort of things with an arrow. That's kind of where we're going to start first, and we'll kind of go around the table.
I kind of from the bow hunting aspect, I'm going to back it up a step even after the shot is with archery equipment and firearms. It seems to be tougher with a lot of folks with firearms for some reason. I don't know why. Follow through.
Follow through.
If you're not following through your shot with archery equipment, you're not going to know where you hit that deer.
Mm-hmm.
If you're yanking the release, I promise you don't know where you hit that deer.
Right.
But if you will practice your follow through and watch that shot, feel that shot,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to know within pretty good reason of where you hit that deer. That's, to me, number one.
Yeah, don't get so anxious that you make jerky movements or something with your bow after the shot. I mean, I've literally seen people draw, and then as soon as they hit that trigger, they're looking.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm
they're
like,
moving
no,
their head.
No.
And that's the same thing with the darn rifle.
Oh yeah.
I just don't get how people go from here and they squeeze the trigger and I mean just instantly they go
They pop
whoop.
up.
It's like
Yeah.
a turkey poking
Yep.
their head up over the log. It's just,
Hey, listen.
they look up.
Shout out to Alan Connor. He was on a guest on here a couple episodes back, but Alan has a term for it. He calls it playing peekaboo. That
Yeah.
You cannot play peekaboo
No.
with a
Yeah.
bow in your hand. You
No.
know, if you
No
if
peekaboo.
do not look for that arrow. Don't worry about where that arrow's going. You just concentrate on trying to burn a hole in the vitals of that animal
That's
with
fact.
your pen
Well,
and let it go.
Let's talk about your arrow right there because I
Yeah.
think that's got maybe a lot
Yeah. So
to do with it.
this is again what I'm going to share with you here is a preference. This is absolutely not the gospel. This isn't what you have to do in order to kill a deer, but this is kind of what I have found to be very useful for after the shot kind of stuff. Jeremy's got one of those arrows there checking it out, but you'll notice if you check this out, I shoot a lighted knock number one. That helps me see it in flight. You don't have to do that if you don't want to.
Yeah,
But
I've
that's
never shot one.
But I do
Love 'em.
I do like being able to kind of follow that arrow as it enters the animal. Also, I have a 7-inch. Yeah, no.
I'm still waiting on my Southern U wraps.
Well, these are not
I do.
Southern U. If you look real close, I got the wrong width on
It's
these, so it's just
Southern.
Other
U.
Other U. Everybody other U has these.
That's the name of our second podcast.
Yeah,
If it's
Other-
not Southern, it's Southern.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. So, this is a 7-inch wrap. A lot of people hate that. So, my gosh, what are you doing? It does add weight to the arrow, but the reason I do it, if you notice, I shoot white veins. They're all white, and the
What
wrap,
are those little ditties right there?
That's called a Zinger fletch. If you haven't checked those guys out, it's a 3D printed vein. It's pretty cool.
That's why this is called the Southern.
Yep,
Yep,
other
Because
than
it's
you.
the
Talking
other.
about
That's right.
Everybody else uses it.
That's right. Yep, this is me. I'm the oddball of the group for sure. But yeah, and basically what I try to do in the tree, again, we're talking about 101 type stuff. So some of this stuff is going to apply, some of it may not. But a 7-inch solid colored wrap like yellow or white or something like that.
Something bright.
Something that you can see in flight helps. Obviously, a lighted knock helps with seeing that too, but it also acts as a way for me to see and kind of verify what shot I think I made.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get down and I shoot an animal give it some time. I get down and I find my arrow, and in my, my initial reaction is, man, I smoked that animal. He's done. And I get down and look at my arrow and it's green. That means I didn't smoke that animal, most likely, unless it exited guts or something like that. But, and then also something that people don't talk about as much, I feel like, is video. I'm not saying you've got to go buy some, thousands of dollars worth of camera gear. Get your phone. Get something that allows you to play back that shot.
Yep.
And, again, helps you to go, man, I think I smoked him. And then you can play it back and go, yeah, I drilled him.
It's very useful.
It's very useful. Even, like I said, just your phone is plenty. But you take those three things, a lighted knock, a 7-inch wrap of a solid color, solid veins, all that kind of stuff helps you see it in flight. It also provides some evidence once you get on the ground, and then if you had video to throw in there, that just kind of just a confidence factor. So,
and that was my whole deal in asking. Want you to go through that is that portion that back 7 inches is all about creating a visual.
Yes.
I guess for you as far as where the arrow hits. Back in the day when we were shooting 2312.
The camo aluminum arrows.
Yeah, I mean you could see the arrow fairly well because they were slow as Christmas.
Yeah, that's right.
They arched on the way there. Today's equipment's really fast, and it's hard to pick these things up in the woods.
It is,
especially in low light conditions.
That's right.
But the lighted knock, the wrap, I shoot white fletchings.
I do too. White or chartreuse.
Yeah, I shoot the tack veins, which no.
Oh no, me either. I love that vein. I shot them for the last, I think, 3 years.
Yeah, but
I just did that literally because I did not have time to actually fletch them. I just we're building a house right now, and every spare moment is either work or house related. And those, you take a little hand sanitizer and just slide them on, and when that alcohol evaporates, that's where they stay. And I was just like, it'll save me time. I'll give them a shot, But I love a tack vein. They're great.
Yeah, but we're just trying to create the ability to see the arrow in flight.
That's right.
As well as you can. Because you want to know where it hit. But secondarily, you really want to pay attention to what it sounds like.
That's right.
And everybody describes it a different way. But when you shoot a deer through the diaphragm, it makes a wildly different sound than when you shoot it elsewhere in the body.
Yep.
I mean, it sounds like you thumped a watermelon.
Yep.
Just pop,
Yep.
It
is a cavity. It is. It's a
you shoot one in the guts. It generally doesn't sound quite the same.
No.
Which threw us all off. Of course, we didn't have video on the deer I killed in Kansas because I'm terrible at videoing.
Way to go, Jerry.
But we had what I saw, and what I knew that I saw. But
and then what you heard.
And what we heard. But what we heard didn't really match what I saw. I mean, we all listened to it and were like, that sounds like diaphragm. And it was not diaphragm. It was kidney.
Yeah, that's right, for sure. The Southern U podcast is brought to you by Tethered. For the last 5 years and counting, Tethered has pushed the boundaries of what mobile hunting looks like. Thanks to Tethered, gone are the days of having to haul heavy gear into the woods in order to hunt from elevation. Their lineup of tree saddles are lighter and safer than other methods. And saddles are not the only thing that Tethered has made better. Their complete lineup of sticks, packs, and other accessories have streamlined the process of getting to your desired hunting area and doing more of what we all love to do, hunt. So if you're ready to ditch the bulky, heavy, and loud hunting methods of the past, check out Tethered's complete list of products and gear at tetherednation.com. That's TetheredNation.com.
It did the job, but being able to see where you hit, confirm that with what you hear, confirm that again on the ground with what you see on the arrow, and for crying out loud, we'll say it 1,000 times. If you're not sure or you've got some experience trailing and it looks kind of bad, back out.
Go home.
Give it time.
Eat supper.
A lot of time. you'll see a lot of guys pick up a track in about 45 minutes, right?
It depends.
Hour.
Depends on the circumstances.
Yeah.
You just have to know where I was.
Yeah, but now, if you see a deer fall, by all means, go throw your hands on it.
Sure, yeah. Well, and that kind of leads into the second part is like upon like executing a well-placed shot, keep your eyes on that animal.
Absolutely.
And make sure, watch, because a lot of guys, and don't get me wrong, like I get as giddy as anybody if I'm able to successfully like make it happen with a bow and arrow, but sometimes guys get a little premature in the celebration process, It's almost like getting a pick six and fumbling at the goal line because you drop the ball or something that. So don't celebrate too early. Watch that animal, and you may very well see it fall. Or, like you said, listen, and even if it gets out of eyesight, you're going to hear it, what everybody refers to as the crash.
Yeah.
You're going to hear them, they're going to hit something hard, a tree, deadfall, something, and start kicking leaves around, and that kind of lets you know, like, okay, that animal's probably down,
Yeah, and the first thing that I usually do, one, is listen, like what has already been stated. But then I want to watch that animal, but I'm marking things that it ran by as it's going.
Absolutely.
Because I want to be able to go, it ran between 3 and 5 yards of that big cherry bark oak at 80 yards, or something like that. And that way I know that if I'm not able to pick up the blood as soon as I think I ought to, I can go, well, I know he ran by that tree. So I can go over there. If I'm not able to find what I'm looking for here, I know he ran right there.
Sure, and especially you guys will find this out the more you do it. But if you're hunting from elevation, what looks like, what you see from elevation is completely different when you get on the ground.
Totally different.
And when you get on the ground, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, this doesn't look the same. And I think it went here, but it may not have.
It can
change.
Yep, it changes a lot.
And then the importance of watching where. One, deer may not bleed immediately, but that's going to play a role when you're in different habitat types where it may be bleeding and you may not be able to find it.
That's right.
We can talk about Texas now.
Yeah, there we go.
Right.
Texas guys. We're talking about
we talk about you. Texas is the hardest place to track a deer I've ever been in. But when it hits that dirt, that sand,
it literally folds over. It folds over the blood and just masks it. It's just like not even there.
Hunting out there, I don't know how y'all grew up, taught to where to shoot, but we're trying to punch it right behind the shoulder. You're trying to shoot them in the heart. My buddies out there is like,
anchor that joker.
Shoot him either through the shoulders and put his chin on the ground, or shoot him midway in the ribs, so that you hit. That you're sure you get both lungs and you get blood blowing.
Right.
You get elevated blood on the vegetation because we're not going to find it on the ground, but we can find it and follow it on the vegetation.
Right.
Pine timber, pine plantations is notoriously hard.
It's awful tracking a deer through pine straw.
No,
that's true.
And the reaction of the deer is very important. So a deer tail down, tearing out of there is likely a good hit. 99 times out of 100, that's a good hit. If it runs out there, stops for a minute, starts flipping that tail around, kind of hunches up, you're probably looking at liver or gut.
Good. Yep.
So that's true.
Yeah. Which now, and I will say this too, some of that can be a little tricky because I've noticed since shooting like a one-piece two-blade, like super duper sharp head, sometimes, and this is extremely rare for this part of the country that we're in North Alabama. Most of the time, especially with a bow, if you shoot a deer, they know, like, oh, crap, I've messed up. Like they know they screwed up and they're hightailing it out of there. But occasionally, especially with that setup, you'll zip one through it and they don't really know what's going on. And they'll sit there and flick that tail for a minute and then all of a sudden just go.
Just tip over.
But now it doesn't happen a lot, but that can be.
Years ago, I had a deer that I shot perfect broadside, double lung, went right back to feeding on acorns.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was just like, I was looking, I was like, I know that deer's dead. Like, it doesn't know it, but it's dead. And it just kind of looked up for a minute. It jumped, when
Yep.
when I shot, it jumped, and it just kind of went back.
More
to,
so with the noise, probably.
Yeah, it looked around, and then it just kind of put its head back down and started eating again. And I was like, man, that's an odd reaction. And I went ahead and knocked another arrow because it was playing tricks on me because
Yeah.
I knew what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And then I looked at the deer and I was like, that's just not a typical reaction for a deer that just got, an arrow slung through both lungs. And then you could see the trickle of the blood start to come through. But the deer wasn't excited, so it wasn't blowing out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of started wobbling back and forth until teetered over, and that was it.
I've seen that happen more times than not in a different situation, but during a rut.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When a buck's keyed up and you zip one through and it's like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter.
Gotta
let that go.
Yep. he goes right back to paying attention to
Oh,
what
yeah.
he was doing, and it's like all of a sudden,
Yeah,
boom,
gets a little
just
lightheaded.
done.
For sure. And by the way, I just want to say this because it's just something that I've always found funny. Guys, I don't know, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong here, but deer only have one set of shoulders, so you can stop saying front shoulder.
Right.
You can
Right.
stop saying put it behind the front shoulder.
Yeah,
The other one's called a hip.
That's right.
It's not a shoulder.
Yeah.
that's like my
Put it right behind the front shoulder. Like, oh, okay, I think that's the only one they got.
Yeah.
that's like my water heater.
Yeah, exactly.
The hot water heater. I'm like, no, boss.
It's a water
It's just
heater.
water
It's
heater.
a water
that's
heater.
right.
You don't heat hot water.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yep.
That's funny. The only thing I was going to touch on here is on the arrow wrap, or even if you don't have a wrap on your arrow, when we start talking about what color that arrow is after the shot.
Mm-hmm.
You may or may not know this, but if you've made a shot through lungs, it's going to be most likely, again, there's exceptions to every rule, but most of the time you're looking at a bright red,
Frothy.
almost pink
Yes,
with
almost pink. pink.
bubbles in
Mhm.
it. That is a dead giveaway that arrow has passed through at least
A lung.
one lung.
Mm-hmm.
If that happens, then that deer is going to die. Like
Mhm.
there's that's a fatal shot. The deer's going to die.
And typically they'll run 30 to 60 yards.
Yes.
If you've got both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you got both lungs, 30 to 60 yards, about all that deer can do.
Yes, that's
we,
about all
we
they
need
can
to
take.
post up a picture of the doe you shot the other day. But when you find where a deer has bedded and it's got that type of blood in it, that almost immediately tells you that it's
Absolutely.
one lung,
Right.
and that can go on for a while.
Yeah, this
Yep.
happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yesterday afternoon.
Absolutely.
You know, they may succumb to that within minutes,
Mhm.
or it could be hours.
Mm-hmm.
But if you find a bed with that type blood in it,
Yep.
just know you've hit one lung.
That's right. And it's a fatal shot. It's
fatal.
gonna
It's just
die.
going to take time.
Right. And
The bad thing is when you walk up on that bed and you're like, oh, okay, so
Dang.
I've just bumped this deer.
yes,
more
for
than
sure.
more than likely.
Like I did.
And the other,
Say it ain't so.
We talk about
Oh,
other
it's so.
other colors of the rainbow here, but if you are fortunate enough to get a heart shot, you're looking at more darker red blood, but
Mhm.
there's usually not quite as much bubbles in it and stuff. That deer is almost always going to go down within sight. I mean that they just can't take it.
Mhm.
If you nick anything on the heart, they're tipping over pretty quick with a
Generally
heavy,
speaking, yep.
bright red blood there. And then as you start to make more marginal shots, if it goes back, say towards the liver, it's going to be a very, very dark red blood.
Mhm.
Almost brown looking.
Maroonish
Yes.
purple. kinda.
Uh-huh.
It is a very, very different looking
it's-
color.
If you can smell, some people can't smell well, and I'm not great. My wife is unbelievable what she can smell, but
Living with you, I'm sure.
yeah, no, that should kill the sense. But
Short circuit.
yeah, but it folks that can really smell well tell me it's got a metallic type
Yeah.
smell to it. I can't pick that up.
Well, I
I,
mean,
I
which-
can look at it and tell, but
I
I
mean, that kind
can't.
of makes sense because it's a lot of like iron rich organ, which is
Mhm.
a liver is. But yeah, I mean that, and you're looking at what kind of time frame would you say a deer's going to expire with a liver
on
hit?
a liver hit, I mean, you're
Minutes
looking
to
at
hours.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at between 1 and 3 hours, more than likely. But now I've seen liver hit deer still be alive 5 hours later.
yeah,
It
sure.
just it's not common.
To
but
me, that's going to depend on the type head you're
Right.
shooting, and where you hit the liver. If you gash the liver, but you've caught the outside of that lobe, then it's going to take some time. I shot one several years ago, not with a real big head. It was the old G5 Tekins or Tekins or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I liver shot him. I shot a hole right slam through the center of the liver. And the deer was dead in 10 minutes.
Right. And I shot one several years ago in Alabama, 200-pound buck. Shot him right through the liver. I mean, almost dead center of his body.
Yeah.
And he ran maybe 40 yards and piled up. And I didn't touch a lung.
Yeah.
Really?
No, did not touch the lung at all.
Mine didn't pile up. I watched him, go down and lay down, but in 10 minutes, his head's over and he was done. But if you're just nicking liver,
Yeah.
and the folks in the Midwest, the dog folks up there, if they think you've shot liver or guts, they're wanting you to wait before they trail those big bodied deer over 12 hours with a liver and with gut. They told me 18. They don't want to take it up till 18 hours, just because those deer can survive with those gaping holes in them.
Yep, that's right. Well, and that, like you said, if it is a gut hit, it's a different color too. You're usually looking at green,
and you can smell
and
that.
gosh, yeah. I mean,
And if it's in Alabama, I mean, there's corn on the ground where you shot him.
Oh yeah, gosh, yeah.
right out of the gut.
If you're trailing a blood trail and you see corn, you gut shot the deer.
that's right.
in Alabama.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is right. But so, and yeah, that's what you kind of answered it before I could ask. But yeah, and gut shot deer.
And this fatal.
Again, a fatal shot.
is a
Yeah,
fatal
absolutely
shot.
fatal shot. But if assuming you shoot something in the evening, you don't need to go and even think about taking that up till the following morning.
morning.
You know.
The deer I shot in Kansas, I did hit an organ. I hit a kidney, but it was solid gut, everything else. And we didn't take that deer up that track. It was 17 hours.
Yeah.
And of course, deer was dead when we got to him, but they didn't want to take it up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the deal is like this animal is mortally wounded. It doesn't want to move. It wants to lay down and try to heal up.
If you leave them alone, they're going to usually gut, liver, anything like that. They're going to bed up within 100 yards where you shot them, as long as you don't push them.
Yeah.
Right.
The deer I killed in Kansas, he went a lot further.
Right.
But he was at his first bed. There was no
Right.
other bed. He was at his first bed.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's valuable info there. I guess moving from, I guess with archery stuff, like we said, just kind of recap, follow through, make sure you really pay attention to that deer or that animal, whatever it is that you shoot, and make sure you pay attention to the body language. And once you've kind of landmarked, some things mentally where this animal has ran or where, if it doesn't, assuming it doesn't tip over, then get down and kind of see what evidence is on the arrow if you can find it. And then from there, make a decision on I need to go and pursue the track or I need to get out of here.
And if you're in doubt, just go home.
Yes. And it depends on there are so many different situations. If you feel like you're going to have a dog, generally the guys that I'm using want the arrow. They want to see it. So mark your impact spot with something and don't walk around. Just take your arrow with you. If some dog guys don't want it, but vast majority of the ones we've used did. They just wanted to confirm what you were telling them based off of what the arrow looked like.
Right.
But mark your blood everywhere. We got these little glow-in-the-dark things. I keep a bunch of them in my pouch. I've seen 1,000 people use toilet paper, just little pieces.
I just rip little shreds of toilet paper to track.
If you're the techno guys, mark it on your phone. Use your tracks on whether it's on X Hunt Stand, whatever. Drop a pin on it, and let it follow you. If you've got a GPS, even better. use a GPS unit. But as long as I'm finding good blood, I'm not necessarily hanging these.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hang one immediately where the impact was.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I'm on good blood, I'm trucking. But the first time that we have come up to a spot that we're not exactly sure, we're clipping another one on and marking where that's at to make sure we don't lose it, because sometimes you're going to get into specks that are pretty small, and you're looking around, especially at night. You're going to turn those leaves over, and you're going to turn the blood over, and you're not going to be able to find it.
That is right.
And hopefully you don't run into those situations. I mean, we all hope that we make the
going
best
to,
shot possible,
but
when you're shooting at live animals, it's just not always going to be a perfect shot.
Sure.
That's it.
Yeah. We're all human, and it's a funny story. I was hunting with a friend several years ago on his property up in Jackson County, and the night before he had shot from a ground blind with a bow. He had shot about 125-inch 10, and didn't find it. Found what appeared to be somewhat good blood, but it just nothing really made sense by his description. He kept saying that the deer was quartering to him slightly, but the blood that we kept finding looked livery. It looked very dark and no bubbles, just like, I don't understand how if it's quartering to you hard, how did you hit it in the liver? Just nothing really made sense. So we decided to back out, went back the next morning, and just a hilarious story, but in some ways really sad. But this is the last day. At this point in time, it was the last day of the season. That the morning we took up the track, and he likes to bow hunt. Doesn't take a rifle in the woods much, and so I said, "Hey man, do you want to like grab a gun when we go on this? We may jump it up or whatever." Nah, I got my pistol on me. Like a hammerless 38. Not like it's something you could really shoot. And so long story short, I find right on the property line, like most of Jackson County, it's very mountainous and with a lot of shelves, a lot of, what we call benches. And anyway, I end up finding a spot of blood that's about the size of my laptop, but I put my hand in it and it's still wet. I mean, this is, hours and hours later, and I said, man, I don't know where this deer is, but it's dead. I mean, you can't bleed like that and still live through it. So I go up to the neck because I stay here, look around for some more blood. But the funniest part of the story is after we end up finding this deer, and he ends up putting all of those 38 rounds in it to kind of finish this deer off. But the deal was he did not tell me. I'd known him for years. Never mentioned this once, but he's colorblind. So when we start to take up this track, he can see if the blood is wet and shiny.
Yeah.
But if it's dry, he doesn't see it. So I'm picking up, like you're talking about, these little specks. I'm picking up these dried leaves with, just pinhole, teeny tiny little droplets of blood, and showing it to him, and he's like, "That's not blood." I'm like, "Yes, it is." You know what I mean? Like, trust me. Like, you can't see, I can. Whatever. And so anyway, we ended up finding it, but he ended up hitting the deer here
in the nose.
What?
Yes, it was the craziest story ever. The deer was quartering to, but he was trying to put it here, in between the shoulder and neck area.
Yeah.
And when the bow went off, the deer whirled.
No.
And when it did, it hit. Of course, now he didn't know.
Didn't know that.
But when we get up there to it, he actually has the Euro mount of the buck with the arrow like this. You imagine a Rage Extreme going through a nasal cavity. It was
awful.
It was not good. It was.
Did it get lodged there? I mean, it was stuck.
What was crazy is he was like, I don't. It baffled all of us for a while.
Right.
He's looking at it, and we both are, can't believe what's going on. The arrow doesn't exit out the back of the, it didn't come out of its neck. It didn't, it somehow had just like
gone straight through.
Yes, down its esophagus and just stayed there. It had about the vein end and knock end of the arrow about about this much hanging out of its face. It was just
look, that's awful.
Crazy story.
Deer can move so much between you releasing that arrow and its arrival.
Yes.
It is unbelievable, especially in the South.
Yeah. But that that's a lesson in not picking on you, buddy. But it's why you don't take frontal
No.
shots.
I will not take a hard quartering 2 shot. Now I will. There's a certain area where I draw the line.
Sure.
If it's quartering to me, I've got to have access to the lungs.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't, if it's quartering too much, I'm not taking the shot. And I've seen a lot of people try to drive them right through here
It don't turn out
in front of the
well
shoulder.
a lot.
And a lot of times that's just a bad deal.
And it doesn't matter what equipment you're using at that point either.
That's
if
right.
the arrow doesn't get there, it doesn't get there. In time. If it's like you
That's
said,
the
anything can
deal. The
happen.
equipment will do it. I mean, especially set up like you're shooting with a single head or a single blade or two, whatever you want to call it. That gum,
One piece.
blade, yeah, one piece,
There you go.
2 blade head. They'll zip through a deer through the front, but it don't take much movement from the frontal to cause you to have problems.
Absolutely.
And look, there's a lot of guys shooting a lot of deer out there, frontal shots, especially from the ground, and it's easier from the ground.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong.
For sure.
If you're gonna shoot one frontal, that's probably where you need to be shooting it from,
Yeah.
not a tree stand. But there's just a lot of room for error. I don't care what kind of archer and hunter you are. Stuff just happens.
It does.
Yep, it does.
The Southern U podcast is brought to you by First South Farm Credit. If you are looking to purchase land, it's highly likely that financing will be needed. The team at First South Farm Credit understands the ins and outs of the land buying process and can help you get the financing needed to secure your purchase. Whether you are looking for that dream cattle farm or that big piece of timber to chase deer and turkey on, First South Farm Credit can get it done. For more information, visit firstsouthfarmcredit.com. That's first, F-I-R-S-T, South, S-O-U-T-H, Farm, F-A-R-M, Credit, C-R-E-D-I-T.com. But yeah, I don't mean to spend that much time on the archery side of it, but I guess we can kind of switch gears and go to if you've got a rifle or, a slug gun or a muzzleloader or something like that, that's shooting a projectile powered by some powder, I guess. What are you looking for? Do you feel like things change, in terms of the deer's body language? Because, an arrow is killing or, expiring a deer much differently than a firearm does. One is blood loss, hemorrhaging. The other is not necessarily, even though there is blood loss and there's hemorrhaging, that's not necessarily the primary means by which this deer,
vital shock.
Right. You're transferring all of this momentum, this energy into a impact, right? So, assuming that the deer doesn't just drop, because that happens, absolutely. If you anchor one, that can happen with a
And
with a rifle.
that shot scares me more than anything else with a rifle. So, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. But if a deer drops, I immediately go on high alert.
Shoot him again.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people shoot that high shot and they shock the spine.
Yep.
And
A high shoulder is the most risky shot that a human being can take on a deer with a rifle. And a lot of people intentionally try to do that. It is the worst shot to take.
I do it.
Yes, it is. And I don't mind telling Jerry, it is the worst shot that you can take.
It worked the other day, though, didn't it?
And sometimes it don't.
That's right.
I do. My philosophy, it actually changes depending on where you're hunting. If I'm hunting somewhere that's just nasty thick that I don't want the deer running anywhere, I'm putting it through both front shoulders and I'm making his chin plow the ground.
Yeah.
And
I can find that deer.
Yes.
But that's what I'm trying to break both front shoulders and make him a bulldozer.
Yeah, and the place that I'm talking about,
You're talking about higher.
I'm talking about the junction between the neck and the front shoulder. That front shoulder
There
that we're
you
talking
go.
about.
Front shoulder, baby.
Yeah. So it would be in front of the vitals. A lot of people will follow that leg straight up, mid-body, and if you happen to hit 2 inches high, people don't realize that a deer's spine, when it gets to the shoulder, it drops down into the body cavity and then comes up through the neck. So you can hit one 2 inches high of mid-shoulder, And guess what you've done? You've shocked the spinal column
Knocked him down.
into having a temporary reaction. And it's going to lay there, and you're going to high-five your buddies, and you're going to hoot and holler, and you're going to get all excited. And on your way to that deer, it's going to jump up and run off, and you will never find it. You will not find that deer.
Me and a couple buddies, we call that playing laser tag with
Yeah.
deer.
Yeah.
And it happens often. The
it
dog
happens a
trackers
lot.
talk about. I mean, dog trackers will not even take that track.
Well, I mean,
They've gotten
what,
to the point.
what can they take? There's no blood.
Well,
Not
know,
much.
yeah.
Like-
I mean, there's hardly ever any blood.
And what people are shooting at are the nexus point of all the nerves.
That's right.
And if you hit that spot,
Right.
he's not going anywhere.
It's a CNA. It's a central nervous system
Yep. It's,
reaction.
That's it hammers them, but you
Yes.
can miss it easily.
And the reason I don't like it, yes, it's effective, highly effective, and that deer's not going anywhere. But if you miss 2 inches forward, 2 inches high, then your odds of recovery are extremely low.
And I also, I'm a gun nut anyway, so a lot of people don't take into account what they're shooting at the deer. I mean, you get it's hilarious to watch all these people talk about, 6.5 Creedmoor won't kill a deer. Or, all these deer are toting these rounds off. There's been as many deer killed with a 22 long rifle as anything else.
Yeah,
I promise you.
If you hit them with where you should hit them, it doesn't matter if you're shooting a 223 or
Yeah.
a 300 Win Mag.
Now 22 is not legal, folks.
No,
Right.
no, we're not advocating that.
Yeah,
Please
but there's
don't
plenty
do
of there's plenty
Yeah.
of deer that are getting killed that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hunt with a 6.5 Grendel almost all the time. And everybody's like, "Why are you shooting that? You shooting a 7 mag?" I'm like, "Why would I want to get kicked in the face all the time?
Right.
Now, I can shoot this little AR that a kid can shoot. I can shoot. Anybody else." But I also pick the right ammunition to shoot in it, the right projectile that does a lot of damage when it hits. And it's all about the energy dump that you talked about. If you're shooting the wrong ammunition, you can cause yourself a lot of problems.
Yeah, and you know, the reason I like to back the shot up a little bit off that shoulder in most situations is if you drive a projectile through both lungs and that deer has a hole on both sides,
Not going anywhere.
he's not going anywhere, and you can follow him or her right to where she most of the time. I've seen, you know, some ammunition and some shots not perform as expected, but most of the time if you double lung a deer, and you've got such a, you know, a room for error there. I mean, you're looking at if you shoot a deer anywhere from right behind the shoulder to mid-body, it's not going very far, and you're going to have a blood trail.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
why
you've got a
would
spot
you? Yeah, you've got a spot
that
that's
big.
literally this big. Why would you condense that down to an area the size of your fist, especially if you're taking, you know, 100-yard shots or longer?
Yep.
And this is what you're trying to base your success on, is shooting something the size of my fist in that central nervous system bundle at the junction of the shoulder and the neck.
Yep. Aim small, miss small, Matthew.
Oh, I understand that, but I'm just saying
Oh, no.
there's a lot of people that can't do that.
Well, I mean,
Yes. It's
in
much more effective.
in their defense
The
too,
shooting
like
lungs.
it's amazing what a deer can like you said,
They
can
can
take and
survive.
get up and walk away from. You
They
know,
can
like
survive a
you guys
lot.
have heard me reference my dad's deer farm. Like those deer, like, you know, if they like don't get enough fiber in their diet, they'll just die. But you
fall
can
over
shoot
dead.
one with a gun and it gets up and walks away. It's like, you know, what's going on? You know?
Yeah, and I mean, weird stuff happens. Like the deer that Luke, my son, shot a week and a half ago. Oddest thing I've ever seen with a firearm. He hit the deer. It was roughly 145 yards. No, the 308 Nosler Partition, 150 grain, and he hit it right where you'd want to. Right behind the front leg, mid body. I mean, if you did a cross section of the deer, it's right in the center, and the deer was slightly quartering to us. So the exit should have been mid body on the opposite side, and that's what we were going off of. When we got down there to track this deer, it got up, and I thought, wow, maybe you didn't hit it where we thought you hit it, you know. And we didn't know at the time. We were just going off the reaction of the deer. When we finally recovered the deer, it had an exit hole right here in the front of the brisket, about midways up the neck. Now, explain that.
Bullets do funny things.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't
can't.
because
No.
that bullet literally had to hit that deer and take a hard 90-degree turn
It did.
immediately.
Well, I'll tell you this too. Now, not to go back on the archery stuff, but same place in Pike County that we've both been to before. This was years ago, and I thought I had archery figured out. I thought I had everything that I needed to be successful. Shooting a big expandable broadhead with a extremely light arrow, like lighter. I was probably underspined on the arrow too, but long story short, shot the biggest deer, like body size, body weight, biggest deer I've ever shot, which was a doe in Pike County. It was about humongous corn-fed, freezer queen. Perfect broadside and exactly what you're talking about. My arrow impacted mid-body, perfect where you'd want to hit. It ricocheted off of a rib, off of something inside the body, and the arrow was, when I found her, came out of her sternum and was just being held in by the veins. The veins were the only thing holding it in. And I'm like, that's a 90-degree angle.
Yep.
How does that happen?
Yep.
Deflections, I mean, it's a real thing.
Oh, it is.
Absolutely. And,
Bullets and arrows both do it.
Absolutely, they do. Now, I had never seen it that bad with a rifle until last week.
That's crazy, man.
But it really shocked all of us because, I was telling Luke, maybe you didn't hit the deer where we thought you did, and he was questioning himself, and then we recovered the deer. I was like, Luke, if we had that shot to do 100 more times, I'd tell you to do the same thing. Put it right there.
Yeah.
So, odd things happen.
The Southern U podcast is brought to you by Vitalize Seed. What sets Vitalize Seed Mixes apart from other companies is their ability to keep producing throughout multiple periods of the year. The symbiotic relationships between the different varieties support soil health while being extremely attractive to a variety of wildlife and important pollinators. If you're looking for a product that is going to benefit all of your wildlife and help you put deer and turkey in the freezer, ask your local seed dealer for Vitalize Seed. And for more information, visit vitalizeseed.com. That's VITALIZESEED.com. That's for sure. So I guess the kind of next part we'll move on to, let's just assume that whether it's a gun or a bow, you've recovered the animal at this point. Now what needs to be at the forefront? Like, I've located this animal. What are some practices or some pieces of gear that you kind of need to have in your pack with you to make
Glad
sure?
you asked.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think Jeremy's got a smorgasbord over here.
We got a handful of things, and a lot of this is taking up the track stuff. The little markers that I had, but always go with lights. I mean, this is a headlamp, just a good flashlight. I generally recommend one that's got a couple of different settings, whether it be flood or spot.
And take extra batteries.
Yes, but and take lots of lights. I have started using a lot of big lights.
The handheld big lights.
The handhelds that's got, multiple batteries. This one happens to be a Nebo. Really like that light. But take backups. Take plenty.
I usually have 2 to 3 lights on me at any given time.
And anybody that's on the track with you, which is a good segue we need to talk about, needs to have lights. Because if you don't, you're going to end up with a stick in the face, eye poked, step in a hole. You got to be safe on these things because you're walking through the woods.
That's right. Yep.
Stuff happens. But I want to circle back to the number of people. 2 people should be a max most of the time.
Oh, you're talking about on a track. Okay.
On a track.
Don't take a party track.
No.
Yeah.
No. Unless you know the deer's dead somehow and everybody else don't know, it's fine to take a handful of people. But the more people you put in there on a track, if something goes wrong, then, if you jump a deer, then that's more the dog's got to sort out. If you don't know the deer's already dead, then each one of those individuals is an opportunity to jump a deer that you wouldn't have if it was just 2 of you staying together, working the track methodically.
Mm-hmm.
It's, when we're guiding, there's always, hey, man, my buddy wants to go. Absolutely not.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but there's just too many chances for us to mess something up with more people in the woods.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. Well, and I mean, especially up there, like we were talking about guiding too, in virtually every one of those cases, we're not tracking a doe in Alabama. We're potentially tracking the biggest deer someone's ever shot
That's
in
right.
their life. So, like, let's give us the best opportunity to recover this thing.
Yep. But it's a rule of thumb of mine, in the woods. We're not going with more than 2 people if we don't know the outcome already.
Right. If you know where the deer's laying,
That's different.
Take the kids.
take your whole family.
That's it.
I mean,
Take the dog, take
Yeah.
everybody. But anyway, get back on that. The lights, the markers, multiple knives. I've got different knives. This is skinning knife that Matt, and I know the guy that makes these, Clarence Skullworks, makes some great knives. I keep one like this all the time. Primarily doing skinning work with it. Because knives are expensive, kind of leave you good ones back at the truck. But
right.
These new Outdoor Edge knives that's got the replaceable blades
love them.
and the Havalons,
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Yep, love them.
A blade will generally do a deer as long as you're not running it in the bone and all that type of stuff. But the one thing I will tell you, be extremely careful
Yes.
with those.
Yes.
Because they are sharp.
They will cut you.
I cut myself in Kansas, gutting one, and I knew it. I just felt it, and looked at the guy and said, "I'm cut." I know it's serious because I can feel it, but I had on rubber gloves. And they're like, "You're all right." I'm like, yeah, I'm good, but I'm cut. Y'all, I kept cleaning, and when I took the glove off after getting done, the entire glove was full of blood, and up to my wrist where that glove was, there was not anywhere you could touch on my hand that wasn't blood.
Mm-hmm.
I just touched myself
Yeah.
on one of those things.
Oh yeah.
They're unbelievable.
They're bad sharp.
They are, and I mean that goes back to taking your time too.
Yes,
Because
don't get in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean it does though, but like like anybody else, I mean you got stuff going through your head like it's getting late. I need to get back home. I've got
Yep.
stuff going on. I need to hurry up. I need to hurry up and get this thing gutted and get it out
Yep.
here. And you do that and you fillet your hand open, and
Yep.
that's a bad situation to be in too.
And you mentioned gutting a deer, and that that's a decision that you're going to have to make whether to gut or not. Like I
Mhm.
don't gut deer.
I don't much anymore.
Unless
either.
if I kill a big deer up in Kansas,
You got to.
it weighs 280 pounds. He's
got
getting
to.
gutted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if I'm hunting down here, most of the time we can recover those deer without killing
Yeah.
ourselves, without having to
You
do
public
that. But
land guys that's hiking 3 miles in,
Yeah.
you're gutting it and quartering it and,
Yeah.
and all that. So,
Sure.
but in my pack, I keep cleaning gloves. I took these out, so they're kind of messy. But these are shoulder-length gloves. You want to talk about keeping you clean.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome.
Yep.
There's nothing like having dried blood all the way up to your neck,
Right.
gutting deer. So these are a lifesaver, especially when you don't have a bunch of water. So those, and of course I keep a box of thick meal gloves. Something a lot of people do not keep with them that I do on tracks, because you never know, is I keep a first aid kit, and I keep a serious first aid kit.
This is a trauma kit. This isn't just a Band-Aid kit.
No, this
Right.
one's got the real deal tourniquet. If somebody is cut significantly, life and death cut, we can
Keep 'em alive.
Yeah, we can keep them alive. We can solve that until the proper people get there and take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to get RL, business partner, to tell you the story, but they were in camp with some folks in Alaska, I believe, bear hunting. Guy got in a hurry and, whipping a knife around, cleaning a bear, and got it hung and pulled on it a little hard, and he stabbed himself in the femoral artery. And the only thing that saved his life was a belt off of one of the hunters, and an oil-filled helicopter heard the Mayday call and was close and was able to land and pick him up. Otherwise, he'd have died right there. So don't get in a hurry. Safety trauma kits, first aid kits are important. I take that when I'm hanging stands, y'all. Everything I do.
They stay in my truck.
Yeah.
I mean, you just never know.
They're in my backpacks or attached to my backpacks. You just can't be overly prepared.
No.
Hey, for crying out loud, deer get after people. Or if you're dumb enough like I was years ago you're going to finish a deer and you stick it and you're not paying attention to where the antlers are, you get stuck right back, which is always fun.
No thanks.
But
I ain't gigging a deer.
No.
I have.
A doe, maybe.
I have. Probably not anymore.
Yeah.
It both times I've done it.
Bad result.
Yeah. One, it's pretty brutal. I mean, you know, it's a whole lot different shooting a deer than it is putting your knee in one's neck and sticking a knife, you know,
No thanks.
in its throat or through the heart. Matt's got, oh man, we got all kinds of stories about that, don't we?
We do. Probably will never be mentioned on this podcast, though.
No.
Some of them will.
Well,
Maybe not.
Some of them will. Oh, we've had some interesting times.
Gotcha.
Yep.
But tracking a deer, look, it is an art form. There's people good at it.
Oh gosh, yeah.
There's people that have been hunting a long time that are absolutely terrible at it. And I've got some friends and family members that they are that. I don't know how they've ever found a deer in their life.
Oh yeah, I've been with those people.
Sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure out. My phone is blowing up. I'm trying to see if something's wrong.
Oh yeah, take it, man.
Yep.
Do what you got to do.
Wait and see what happens here. So I guess we've recovered the deer and talking about what gear is necessary there. Just to kind of wrap this thing up, is there anything else that you would add to what we've already discussed, or anything other people might need to know? Or the only thing I was going to maybe mention is, depending on the time of year that you harvest a deer, it's really important to do something with that
Pretty
animal.
Pretty quick, yeah.
In the South.
Especially in bow season in Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, like I know Matt said, hey, I don't gut deer, and that's, I love doing the gutless method and not having to mess with that myself, but sometimes,
it's just necessary.
You have to.
Yeah, I try to get mine hanging and cleaned pretty quick.
Yeah.
Most of the time I do my own skinning and quartering. It depends on what I've got going on with the family that evening. I may run it to the processor real quick, but most of the time I do it myself. And I use the gutless method and can get anything and every cut of meat that I need without having to gut that animal. And it's easy for me to dispose of them because I just roll the carcass over into the bucket of my tractor and haul it off.
Right.
Everybody don't have access to that.
Sure.
That's right.
And I understand that. So the biggest thing is, if it's hot, if it's warm, then you want to get them done as quickly as possible, because even it's not going to spoil the meat, but the inner loins, the best cut of meat on the deer, sit up against the intestines. And so as those gases start to exchange and everything begins to bloat, it's putting all that up against the inner loins. And although it's probably not getting anything in them or on them,
they're just getting
they smell.
They do,
and they will begin to taste.
Gamey.
Yeah, they will begin to taste like gut material.
Yeah, I don't want that.
So you want to try to do something with that pretty quick.
Yeah, and we may just need to do a whole episode on how to treat the meat. But for crying out loud, folks, quit putting the meat in coolers of ice water.
With ice water. Yeah, I know.
You gotta soak them in salt water for 3 days. No, you
I've
don't.
never done that one
No.
time.
Ice only, and the meat goes on top of the ice.
Yeah, let that thing drain. Get that water out of there.
Keep the water out.
Yep.
I wouldn't. You
you
don't want
will-
to soak a ribeye
You will
in
be
water for 3 days.
You will be much happier with your meat
Yes.
if you keep it out of the water, keep it dry, keep it cold. I mean, heck, the deer I killed in Kansas, I didn't take it to Ron. It's of course now I had dry ice with it because going a long way, but I just put 1 block of dry ice in there and refreshed it as needed to. But it stayed in the cooler for 12 days, 14 days.
Dang.
Oh man, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, I would love to have my deer hung
Aged.
for 12, 14 days hung in cooler. But that's just not possible.
Right.
Especially not over there with the number of deer they're doing. But if you'll take care of your meat, you'll be happier with it. If you're cleaning it yourself, make sure to try to keep the hair and get the sinew and all that off of it.
No doubt.
The cleaner cutting you've got, the better taste is going to be.
The Southern U podcast is brought to you by Darton Archery. For over 70 years, Darton Archery has been leading the way in archery innovation. With over 30 patents spanning over 60 years, it's easy to see why many archers and bow hunters have chosen to shoot a dart. Darton's patented dual sync cam system gives the archer 1/4 inch draw length adjustments, adjustable holding weight options ranging from 85% to 65%, and the super easy to tune E system for quick adjustments and perfect arrow flight. For more information or to find an authorized Darton dealer, visit dartonarchery.com. That's DartonArchery.com. Right. Well, guys, I reckon we've kind of covered all I think we can cover for this one. I'm going to wrap it up, and I told you guys we had something coming up that you wanted to be involved in, and we'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag before we sign off here. But Darton Archery has released their new lineup of bows for 2024, and their flagship bow is called the Sequel 33. And I'm not going to hype it up too much because I haven't had an opportunity to hold one in my hand or shoot one or anything like that. But what I can tell you is if they shoot anywhere near the way that the current lineup does, I think we're all in for a treat on that.
I've been very impressed with my veracity.
Yeah,
I mean,
too.
I don't mind telling you, I've shot Hoyt my entire life.
Sure.
And I've got that veracity this year. I've shot 5 deer and a bobcat, I think. And yeah, I just absolutely love it. I'm actually wanting to shoot more stuff with it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Same with I hadn't shot that many critters with it, hadn't had the opportunity, but the Prelude, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bow, baby.
Yeah. They're going to have a tough time getting that one out of my hands.
Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts too. But yeah, the Sequel 33 is kind of the next, that's why they call it the sequel to the Prelude. 33 inches axle to axle. It has incredible IBO speeds. And if you guys don't know this, Randy at Darton is a stickler for the speeds. Whenever a company puts out a speed rating, when you get it set up for you with your hunting gear, ready to rock and roll, it's most of the time nowhere near those speeds. A Darton has been tested to the nth degree on this stuff, and it is going to shoot.
They're close.
I mean, if it's IBO standard is a 350 grain arrow at 70 pounds and 30-inch draw, and it says it will shoot X. And if you set it up with those specs, that's what that thing will shoot. It's crazy. So he's big proponent for being honest about that stuff. But we're actually going to be giving one away. And yeah, which I mean, we don't even have one yet. I want to shoot one first before I give one away, man. But anyway, we're going to give one away through Instagram, and we're going to tell you guys how to do that, how to enter it, all those sort of things. But just be following our social media accounts, and you'll be able to see how to enter and when we're going to draw and how that's going to look. But someone's going to take home, I believe. I talked with them last week. It's OD green with black limbs, right-handed. I believe it's a 70-pound bow too. It's, I can't imagine. That has a new shim system, so you can kind of shim your cams. They're all color-coded to kind of make sure that that's a little easier to get your center shot right and perfect arrow fly. It's just, a new cam system. Everything's really new, 1/4 inch draw length adjustments,
which
works.
Is unbelievable, by the way, to be able to dial a bow in exactly right.
Yes,
that's always been my problem. is not being able to dial it in
to
just
properly
exactly the
tune
right
it.
length.
Mhm.
Yep, I've always had to have either a little extra long D loop or something to get it perfect.
Yep.
But that 1/4 inch adjustment,
Yep, absolutely.
you can get it perfect.
You can. So, yeah, we're excited about that. And like I said, more details emerge. We'll let you know about that. But thank you guys for listening in. We do ask that you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like I said, we got other content other than just the podcast coming out there. And then obviously follow us on social. We'll be posting stuff pretty much every day. We try to give something out there, and we really appreciate the support. And we would be honored if you kind of came along on this journey with us. We would
Absolutely.
appreciate it. So until next time, we will see you later.
Out.
See ya.